Hello, dear friends. This is Lloyd Tupper speaking to you again via this wonderful, ingenious internet and email capacity to let you know that I will again be speaking in San Francisco on August 14th at 2 p.m. And my title this Sunday is Turning Entirely Away from the Condition, or in our case, possibly conditions. And the inspiration for this talk came out of something I recalled reading back when I was having many difficulties and challenges, much like I hear about today. The volatility that is affecting the economic structure of the entire world, and now what is going on in the City of London, would make any student of new thought think and want to pause and ask the question, what is happening to our world? Is the world going to hell in a basket? Or are we capable of doing something that can still the waters of our mind and bring peace back into our sense of beingness and to clarify our purpose in this thing called life? I think that is exactly what my address this Sunday can do. And I want to read something to you that was written by Dr. Ernest Holmes in the Science of Mind textbook that I think also addresses and inspires this approach to the situation which I have described. On page 184, under the title, The Perfect Universe, Dr. Holmes says, in quote, "We must seek to realize the spiritual universe, regardless of any condition which appears, if we would embody the greatest good. If the spiritual universe were not perfect, it could not exist for a single moment. The truth is indivisible and whole. God is complete and perfect. A perfect cause must produce a perfect effect. Disregarding all evidence to the contrary, the student of truth will maintain that he or she lives in a perfect universe among people potentially perfect. He or she will regulate their thinking to meet this necessity and will refuse to believe in its opposite. At first, they may be influenced by conditions, and they may appear to be weak, but as time goes on, they will prove to themselves that their position is a correct one, for that which appears to be imperfect will begin to slip away from their experience." End of quote. Now, how do I personally apply that lesson? And how do I apply the title to turn away entirely from the condition so that I can recapture and you can recapture a sense of peace in the midst of what seems tumultuous, imbalance to all that we expect to be perfect and whole and complete and bring the greatest good to all and harm to none? Simply put, by becoming still and practicing the presence of God, which is the most powerful healing agent that humankind can assess. But all of us know that when we're in the midst of turmoil, that's the last thing we think of doing. So I'm going to encourage you, as I encourage myself, to take hold of these things, these principles that we hold so dear, and to apply them in the midst of what appears to be this tumultuous, unstabling effect in the world, and to prove that even in the midst of this turmoil, in the midst of what we might call the perfect storm, there is a safe harbor, and we can find the way to that harbor by going within. I think the man Jesus who became Christ said, "Go within the closet." And there, that which he called the Father, I call the all-originating Spirit, knows what we have need of even before we make the request. Now, some of us will call this meditation. Some of us will call this contemplation. I call it stilling the waters of my soul and opening my mind and my heart and my spirit to that constant infusion of new ideas which can embolden me, just as they can you, to face any circumstance which we all are facing at varying times in our individual and collective lives, and simply state when it is not in accordance with that which is the nature of spirit, there is not a word of truth in it. That's what my great teacher, Dr. Raymond Charles Barker, always repeated to me when I would tell him, if you only knew the problems I'm having in this area, or if you only had the experience of what I'm having in my bank account, or in my body, or in my relationship. And when it was anything less than the perfect truth, he would declare, there's not a word of truth in what you have just said. Now, I know to some that might mean that we're burying our heads in the sand, and that we're not dealing with so-called reality. Let me redefine for you, as I had it redefined for me. Reality is not the facts or the confusion of humankind. The word reality is this. Ultimately, it means the all-originating source, which we call God. Now, that reality is what we need to deal with. And when we go to that perfect source, and we bring out of that source that which needs to be administered to our affairs, to our relationships, to our sense of well-being, a peace, as the apostle stated, will come upon us. It will overcome us, and it will passeth our human understanding. And what I like to say, deliver the goods. So that's what I'm speaking about on Sunday. And I always remind you, as I remind myself, I only speak about what I need to learn. Prayerfully, I will bring the passion to my presentation, and I will be blessed in grace and ease by your presence.